What went wrong? It's something that every candidate probably asks themselves if they lose a political race.
Today, Senate candidate Martha McSally is attempting to answer that question in her own words, releasing a 4-page explanation of her loss to Kyrsten Sinema in that hotly contested Senate race.
Team 12's Joe Dana is here to break down Congresswoman McSally's take.
Yeah, well, you don't often see detailed point-by-point post-game analyses, if you will, the way you see here with her campaign. Now, this was written by her aides. Clearly, though, the Congresswoman and her aides want a chance to explain why they believe she lost, which was by a slim margin. Now, take a look. Her campaign points to several factors for the defeat, including spending. About $7 million more was spent on Kyrsten Sinema's campaign, topping out at $36 million. There's home field advantage. According to McSally's campaign, this was big because Sinema's congressional home is Maricopa County, made up of 60% of the electorate in Arizona's general election. And media coverage. McSally's campaign contends local media focus too much on tensions between President Trump and other Republicans, as McSally put it, making it difficult to unify Republicans. And then there is unrest within the Arizona GOP electorate. This is interesting. The McSally campaign acknowledging it's real and arguing a significant segment of the AZ GOP was, in the way they put it, hostile towards the president. That a segment of moderate Republicans, especially women, proved difficult to convince to vote for a Trump candidate. The campaign argues the controversy over the Kavanaugh hearings only made the divide worse. A tough primary with Kelly Ward also sapped McSally of resources, also part of that division, according to the McSally camp. Now, John McCain's name also came up in this. The campaign acknowledged that many moderate Republicans like John McCain. The campaign wrote that Kyrsten Sinema often tweeted her admiration and respect for McCain's legacy, and in their words, that was a significant challenge to McSally's candidacy. McSally did take some heat for downplaying her regard for McCain, especially during the primaries. Back to you guys.